Not all stories are told in their entirety. There are videos that once existed, and footage that was captured but never aired, and ultimately lost forever. Sometimes it's a missing scene, other times an entire event that has vanished without explanation. In this video, we'll be diving into these mysteries, and looking at 5 pieces of media that did or currently does exist, but has never been shown to the public. Now, before we begin, you may have noticed that sometimes our videos just disappear, get age restricted, and stop showing up in your feed. This isn't by accident. For many years, the Top 5's channel has covered a variety of topics, from UFOs to supernatural to conspiracies and everything in between. However, over the past few years, it's become very obvious that YouTube does not like us talking about certain things. So if you ever feel like you're only seeing half of what we're talking about, or think we've disappeared, it's for a reason. That's why we've set up a free membership tier over on Patreon. It's a space where we can post full, unfiltered versions of our content, without having to tiptoe on the type of things we talk about. We're not asking for money, not unless you want to support, but if you just want access to what YouTube will not allow us to show, and are fed up of only seeing the things that they want to show you, then check out our Patreon. It's important that our ideas and videos do not just disappear, and if you're here, then it probably matters to you as well. So go join over 7,000 truth seekers, supernatural enthusiasts, and all-round open-minded people over on our Patreon. I'll see you there. (9/11) recording from person above impact zone. At approximately 8:46 a.m. on September 11, 2001, American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York, impacting between the 93rd and 99th floors. Those trapped above the point of impact found themselves in a horrific situation. Flight 11 tore through the tower's core, obliterating escape routes, and survivors on the floors above were caught in a living inferno with no way out. Amid the chaos, a man on the 105th floor reportedly filmed the aftermath from a window, capturing his final moments. Witnesses below described him as holding what appeared to be a silver camcorder. He recorded a message by first directing the camera toward a friend on his right, and then to his left, and finally pointing it down. The lost recording may represent a final message from someone 100 stories above the ground. This one has always freaked me out. What was he saying? What was he thinking? If this footage still exists, though its existence remains unconfirmed, it would be a unique insight into the thoughts of those trapped that day, and how they were dealing with the horrific situation they found themselves in. No official archives contain this tape, and it has never been found in family collections or documentary footage. Amateur searchers, including efforts by online sleuths and enthusiasts, have come to a dead end, meaning it's likely the camcorder, along with its owner and the footage, remains hidden, either lost to the collapse or intentionally concealed because it's too disturbing. This one's always fascinated and scared me. Think about how many other people during 9/11 filmed themselves and others from inside the towers, the footage of which was destroyed when the buildings collapsed. I don't know about you, but I just find that incredibly eerie. Lost near-death footage of Jeremy Clarkson from Robot Wars. Before Top Gear, the Grand Tour on Clarkson's farm, English TV presenter Jeremy Clarkson ventured into an entirely different arena, Robot Wars, a British robot combat television series that first aired in 1998, which he hosted. However, during the very first season of Robot Wars, something went horribly wrong. A blade snapped on one of the machines, metal flew, and Jeremy Clarkson came within inches of death. The cameras were rolling, and the footage exists, but it's never been seen. The robot involved was Dead Metal, whose circular saw was spinning at over 6,000 revolutions per minute. While cutting through a defeated machine, the blade snapped and shot into a concrete wall just inches behind Clarkson's head. Producer Tom Gutteridge later noted, "When we studied the recording in slow motion, we found that the blade missed Clarkson's scalp by less than 2 inches. They were so shocked by the incident that production was paused for a week afterward, and bulletproof perspex was added to protect Clarkson and the crew before filming resumed." Soon after, Clarkson left the show, although officials were keen to point out this was not due to the incident, although it seems clear that the set had become dangerous. The terrifying footage never aired, and none of it's publicly available, although it's possible the BBC still holds the tape. It's unclear why they have suppressed it, but it could be due to just how close to death Clarkson came and the likely feared backlash or lawsuits. The decapitation of one of Britain's best-loved stars would have meant disaster for the BBC, so it's likely the footage will remain a ghost in their archives, as a reminder of how close they came to killing Jeremy Clarkson. Lost recording of control room number 4 at Chernobyl. They say there's a tape, a reel of audio recorded inside control room 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the hours before the explosion, but it was never released and never archived. Some say that it vanished, and others believe it never existed at all. On April 26, 1986, just after 1 AM, engineers inside Reactor 4 began a routine safety test. Within minutes, pressure built, alarms blared, and a massive explosion tore through the reactor, releasing radioactive material into the night sky. This became the worst nuclear disaster in human history. However, behind the concrete and steel of Control Room 4, something may have been recording. The Soviet Union was known for being secretive but efficient. Nuclear facilities like Chernobyl often used centralized monitoring systems, and there's speculation that audio logs or training tapes were recorded during operations, especially during sensitive tests. Some insiders have whispered that one such tape existed that night, an audio reel capturing the final 40 minutes before the disaster. Mentions of this tape surface infrequently, most notably in niche books, interviews and Reddit forums, who question if the tape ever existed, and if so, why was it hidden? Some believe it may have captured damning evidence of panicked engineers, failing systems or arguments about protocol. Others think it was destroyed to protect the Soviet image. An audio recording from Control Room 4 would be chilling. We could hear firsthand the countdown of catastrophe, the real voices of the men on the front line, their warnings, and perhaps the silence that preceded the blast. It would provide answers to a haunting question. What did it sound like to be there as a nuclear reactor met its end? For now, information on it is limited. There is still some hope for finding the recording. Soviet archives are continuing to be declassified, and some researchers believe that the tape or other audio logs may still be stored away somewhere, waiting to be discovered. Daniel P. Dukes. Daniel P. Dukes was a 27-year-old drifter from South Carolina. SeaWorld Orlando described him as a man who was homeless and unkempt, but his family remembered him as a nature-loving individual who sometimes wandered through parks after hours. On July 6, 1999, after the park had closed, Dukes reportedly sneaked onto the property at SeaWorld Orlando, and despite the presence of numerous cameras, he somehow made his way into the pool where Tilikum, a male orca, lived. He apparently interacted with the whale before drowning in the pool. Strangely, this incident went unnoticed by SeaWorld observers, who were responsible for performing wellness checks on the whales around the clock. The next morning at 7:05 AM, staff found Dukes dead. He was naked and draped across Tilikum's massive back. The official coroner's report concluded that Dukes drowned. However, his body displayed far more disturbing evidence. He had multiple bruises, abrasions, bite marks consistent with an orca attack, and he was severely mutilated. Despite this damning evidence, SeaWorld asserted that Dukes had trespassed and accidentally drowned. However, many trainers and animal advocates contest the view that Dukes drowned. And in the documentary Blackfish, it was revealed that Tilikum was known to experience stress in captivity and may have reacted unpredictably, possibly pulling Dukes underwater when he entered the pool. Rumours persist about lost photographs of Dukes in the tank and possibly video footage from the late-night incident. No such evidence has ever emerged publicly, even though the area was covered by 24-hour CCTV. Perhaps the footage is too horrific to show, and has been kept hidden from authorities and the public to protect the reputation of SeaWorld. This was not Tilikum's first fatality. In 1991, a young marine biology student died after falling into his pool at Sealand in Canada. And following Dukes' incident in 2010, experienced trainer Dawn Brancheau was also killed by the same orca. To this day, nobody knows precisely how Dukes ended up in that tank or what his final moments were like. And it seems the truth and the footage has been buried forever. Brian Shaffer's bar footage. On April 1st, 2006, 27-year-old Brian Shaffer walked into a crowded bar in Columbus, Ohio, and was never seen again. There is no footage of him leaving, no sign of a struggle. He simply vanished. Brian Shaffer was charismatic, intelligent, and ambitious. A second-year medical student at Ohio State University, he had big dreams of becoming a doctor. However, beneath his outwardly calm demeanor, he was grappling with a significant grief. Just weeks before his disappearance, he had lost his mother to cancer. This profoundly affected him, but he continued to push forward. He had even planned a spring break trip to Miami with his girlfriend, Alexis Wagner. The night he went missing was supposed to be just a few drinks to kick off spring break. Brian had dinner with his father before meeting up with his roommate Clint Florence and friend Meredith Reed. Their destination was the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a popular college bar in the Gateway complex. At 1:15 a.m., surveillance cameras captured Brian riding the escalator up to the bar with his friends. He appeared relaxed and was smiling. Then at 1:55 a.m., he was seen again on camera, this time outside the bar, chatting with two women, before turning to walk back inside. That was the last confirmed sighting of Brian. This is where the mystery begins. Every entrance and exit to the bar was monitored by cameras, yet there's no footage of Brian leaving, not through the front entrance, not through the emergency exit. Nowhere. Police carefully reviewed the footage frame by frame, and investigators even considered the possibility that he might have disguised himself to sneak out. However, he left behind his coat, wallet, and car keys, so they quickly dismissed this theory. The bar's layout was complex, with a construction site located out back. Some theorize he may have slipped through a service exit and encountered foul play, or had an accident in the hazardous area. However, no body was ever found, and there was no evidence to support that theory. Cadaver dogs were brought in, and every dumpster, alleyway, and manhole in the vicinity was searched, but still nothing was discovered. Suspicion eventually fell on Brian's closest acquaintances. Notably, his roommate Clint was uncooperative with police and refused to take a polygraph test. However, no one has been charged, and no solid evidence connected anyone to Brian's disappearance. His girlfriend was heartbroken. They had discussed the possibility of marriage, and she called his phone every night for months. One night, months later, the phone rang, just once. A cell tower ping indicated it was briefly connected near Hillard, Ohio. The phone company attributed it to a glitch, but it gave her a glimmer of hope. Some believe Brian may have chosen to walk away from his life and start anew. However, those who know him insisted he would never vanish without a word, especially not without informing his girlfriend or brother Derek. His father clung to hope for years, until his unexpected passing in 2008. In his obituary guest book, a cruel message was written saying, "Dad, I love you, Brian." Police traced it to a hoax. In 2021, the FBI released an age-progressed image of what Brian might look like today, but the case remains unsolved. So what happened to Brian? Did he leave voluntarily? Was it an accident, or something more sinister? He walked into the bar and never came out. How is that possible with CCTV at every entrance? Was it deleted by his killer? Was it deleted by Brian? Or is there an outwardly explanation for his vanishing? If you have any information about Brian Shaffer's disappearance, contact the Columbus Division of Police or the FBI. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.